So if you've been living under a rock lately or have not been in the market for a gaming mouse, then well, I wouldn't blame you, and you would easily have missed one of the most recent trends in gaming mice, and that's, well, ultra lightweight. Even to the point that they're blasting holes in them to shed every ounce that they can. And this has brought out newcomers like Final Mouse and glorious PC gaming race products like the Model O, but Razer wasn't going to be left out in the scene on this one and jumped right in with the Razer Viper, an ultra lightweight, ambidextrous, esports focused gaming mouse. I hear you. Esports, really? But yeah, see, often mice are marketed to different segments of the market, and esports gamers don't need a ton of buttons all over the place. They usually want a very straightforward mouse that is designed to be light and responsive without getting in the way. But does Razer manage to do that with this mouse? Now, they spent quite a lot of time developing this thing, even to the point where they worked directly with real esports competitors to get different feedback and mold their design choices. So let's start things off with the cord. I want to get the cord out of the way real quick because it's important and not a whole lot to talk about at the same time. See, gone is the tightly braided cables like the Mamba and the Basilisk had, and is replaced by their new 2.1 meter long SpeedFlex cable. Similar to a paracord design but a bit looser, the SpeedFlex is a bit thicker than I had expected, but is super flexible and doesn't get bunched up and stiff like other cables Razer uses. It's a good move and welcome, although the lightweight nature of the mouse feels kind of heavy on that end. A very important note on the design is that one might overlook is the fact that the cord is angled slightly upwards from the mouse body to extend the point in which it hits your mouse pad out by just a little bit. Nice touches like this are really key into making a better product. The Razer Viper features an ambidextrous design that I was a bit hesitant to try at first, only because I'm right-handed and have been accustomed to right-handed mice like the Logitech G502, the Razer Mamba, or the Rocket Tyon. But it did take me a few days so I could really get used to this and get this one going. Coming in at 126.7 millimeters long, 66.2 millimeters wide, and a short 37.8 millimeters tall, the Viper lends itself perfectly for a palm-style grip, with my hand measuring in at 177 millimeters from fingertip to wrist. I know, I have small hands. On the top of the mouse, you'll find the scroll wheel, right and left mouse buttons, and a pair of forward and back side buttons on both sides, and these can all be modified in the not required Synapse software. More on that later. And the Razer logo is under the surface, so it has a frosted look to it. For the only RGB that's present on this one is pretty nice. The real kicker here is that the body is in the weight. Now, the Razer Viper comes in at a very light 69 grams and managed to do so without blasting it with buckshot thanks to a very strategic internal shell design. They claimed that they had the ability to make it even lighter, but due to the feedback from the pro players, landed them right here at 69 grams for optimal control and speed. And maybe it was to sneak in a joke or two, but who am I to judge here? I can appreciate keeping the mouse looking normal so that it's more welcoming to more people, but I also had concerns about debris building up in those open hold body mice designs, although that might be completely unfounded concern. Either way, the weight is nice, and now everything else mainstream feels like a brick. Thanks, Razer. Flip the mouse over and you'll find two glide pads at the top and bottom of the mouse, and they're a bit anemic in size to be quite honest, but they do have glide pads around their in-house 5G optical sensor that is rated for 99.4% accuracy and 16,000 dpi for those who need to cross 6 4K monitors in the blink of an eye. Tracking felt good and I never came across an issue, but I did keep the DPI at 1800 where I'm most comfortable. Speaking of DPI, if you recall earlier, going over the top of the mouse, I didn't mention anything about a DPI selection, and that's because it's on the bottom. This keeps you from accidentally changing the DPI during a heated firefight or any other reason, but it could prove a hindrance if you're someone who adjusts DPI on the fly in a game for whatever action that you're trying to take. I know there are some games where I like to change the DPI if I'm going from sub-menus or using a vehicle per se. What about the scroll wheel? Well, it's wide and it has a good grip. Other than that, it's a scroll wheel. The switches are much more interesting, however. They're implementing their new optical switches for instant actuation. But while that is a nice feature, having been someone who suffered from losing a mouse in the past to the left click wearing out and double clicking no matter what thanks to the debounce delay taking a dump, I can appreciate no longer having to worry about needing that, as, well, there's no need for debounce in this. The switches are able to do that because they actually do not have a physical contact point. They're actuated entirely by light passing through the switch as it moves up and down. Thanks to this design, they're able to extend the lifespan to 70 million clicks. Now count that up if you want to, as I can't really validate that claim. Another claim is that they're 3 times faster than normal switches, but the time frame that is so small already, you'll likely not be able to tell the difference. Sound-wise, they do have a nice thud to them, and they aren't very clicky sound and not very loud either, so have a listen. Okay guys, what about the software? I know how much you guys love Razer Synapse software suite. After all, you tell me every time we do a review of their hardware. Now if you fall into the camp, then you'll be very happy to know that it is not needed unless you want to change the color cycling or the DPI selections. There are 5 presets for the DPI saved on board on the memory and the mouse. You heard me right, on board memory. And while you can use the Razer Synapse software to change the settings, each of those they'll stick and they'll save. It won't save the RGB configuration, however, so you'll be left with the color cycling effect when you take the mouse off and use it on another computer, or you want to uninstall the Synapse software. So coming in at $79.99, the Razer Viper isn't exactly cheap, but it is an acceptable price considering how well the mouse is executed in design and performance. Now I love the fact that they've managed to make a really lightweight mouse that can easily fit into any setup and be taken about with you without fear of filling up with lint and debris in a bag. Now I wish they had put a bigger glide pads on the bottom, if for nothing more than maybe extend the lifespan of them. The addition of onboard memory is an exceedingly welcome and very appreciated addition, and not being met with the Razer Synapse installer upon hooking the mouse up shows that Razer is listening and making moves to deliver what the audience is asking for. Now it would have been great if they had added just enough storage on there so it could save the RGB profiles as well. But at the end of it all, the Razer Viper is a solid and competent lightweight gaming mouse that will serve you well into the long hours of the night. So let us know what you think about this and other lightweight gaming mice. This has been Keith the WCCF Tech TV. Make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so we don't miss you and the next one.